So today we've gotten new footage of Shadow Generations, which is fascinating as we see the return of stages such as Kingdom Valley and a metal Overlord boss fight. Now, this isn't going to be some thorough frame-by-frame analysis. Instead, it'll just be my general thoughts on what we've seen, with a couple comments on some stuff that stood out to me. And yeah, I know I'm a little late on this, but I think that Sonic X Shadow Generations is looking to be a fantastic remaster so far. I had my doubts when the game was initially announced, because out of all the games that need a remaster, Generations wasn't one of them. It's a game that still holds up graphically to this day, and while it's not widely available on modern consoles, its legacy has lived on over the years thanks to the extensive modding scene on PC, and adding Shadow, well, to be honest, didn't sound enticing, because he usually plays like a Sonic clone nowadays, just with a few differences. But looking at what they've shown now, oh boy, I'm glad that I've been proven wrong. Not only are they finally giving us more remastered levels that we've been clamoring for decades, back when the original Generations had no DLC, but they've also given Shadow Chaos Control and Doom powers, which adds so much to the experience, but I'll elaborate on that later. With all that said, let's just get started. The first thing I noticed from this footage is that the map for Kingdom Valley is massive this time around. It's far more extensive than what we saw back in 06. This is probably so that they can accommodate a character that can move faster, as Boost Sonic and Shadow can cover twice the amount of ground that they could back then. I mean, just look at this. It's kind of a slow slog from beginning to end. This in turn has allowed the level designers to sprinkle many alternate paths than what we've seen before so far. I mean, compare it to the Space Colony arc or Radical Highway levels. Whereas that zone had a few shortcuts you could walk up to or reach with quick reactions, Kingdom Valley has some well hidden ones that require paying more attention to your surroundings and using Shadow's new Doom powers creatively. Like in this segment for example, you have to stomp on the bouncing ropes to reach a higher plane and find a hidden homing attack chain, or use the Doom Blast to kick an enemy through a glass window and teleport inside the chamber. You know, stuff like this encourages you to explore more than just blast through it with pure speed, and I kinda like that change of pace. It's especially noticeable with the Doom Surf sections. Now, usually, Boost Sonic can just run across water in short but challenging sections where if you stop or you get hit, it usually means instant death. But with Surf, Shadow can navigate the water as safely as he wants, allowing for some fun and precise sliding sections. They kinda remind me of the many Plessy levels from Super Mario 3D World. So it's interesting to see the different ways the developers incorporated Shadow's powers and finding new paths in favor of a slower, more methodical way that doesn't break the pace of the level. And I definitely see myself replaying this one a lot just to see what new hidden paths I can find. Now another cool thing to note here is that we actually have some combat in this. In this instance, a Black Arms creature shields itself with a barrier, prompting Shadow to charge up a few Chaos Spears. Once the barrier is down, he unleashes a Doom Blast to send the creature flying, and where you can aim him to obtain a hidden item. Now this suggests that strategizing is essential when dealing with certain enemies. It remains to be seen how integral combat will actually be, but it's very likely to be less combat heavy than it was in Sonic Frontiers. Another example of this light combat occurs during the Doom Surf section, where a strange weird Black Arms creature is attacking you. You have to retaliate by shooting Chaos Spears back at it. It's not much, but it goes to show that they're trying to keep you invested in this gameplay loop more than just boosting around at the speed of sound. I find this fascinating as it's trying to evolve the boost gameplay to new heights. See, boost levels were previously quite linear and fast-paced, offering very little room for diverse gameplay styles beyond quick reactions. Here, the game is exploring new ideas, such as adding combat mid-levels and water sections with a greater emphasis on platforming, while also retaining the beloved fast-paced gameplay. Now this is a massive relief, as one of the common critiques of the boost was that it had become a little stale over the years, and it offered very little room for innovation. However, this new game proves otherwise by adding new layers of depth to level interaction. So I'm eager to see how they'll utilize the other powers throughout the game. One thing to note is that I noticed how Surf's power also activates instantly when you touch the water, making it a context-sensitive ability. I suppose that makes sense, as it's a water power, so there's not a lot of terrain where it would have a variety of uses anyway. The other Doom powers on the other hand, well, at least the ones that we've seen so far, can seemingly be activated anywhere, provided you have your Chaos Energy meter charged. So it kinda makes me wonder how many of them you can use at will or not. This is an essential factor, as powers that can be activated anywhere could open so many possibilities for potential strategies and shortcuts. If you need an example of this, look no further than the gym powers in Project 06. The number of skips and tricks you can pull off with those on a level are insane for speedrunning and ridiculously fun. So just imagine if you could use your Doom Wings to glide over a giant gap, or use your Doom Blast to reach a high platform you're not supposed to yet. But I guess only time will tell how versatile these powers are going to be outside of a few sections, so here's hoping. Outside of that though, this is a faithful recreation of the original Kingdom Valley. The wind grind rails are activated through those green orbs, the bouncing ropes are back, and even some memorable set pieces make a welcome return. Seeing a level from arguably the worst game in the franchise brought back in HD is surreal. For the second time, that is. And people are just excited about it too. But to be fair, Sonic 06's stages were the best parts of that game with its fantastic level design and banger music, so I guess it really shouldn't be a surprise after all. I guess if I had to nitpick something, then that would have to be the visuals. The visuals definitely could have been better in some areas. First of all, the stage is covered in a dull white lighting, which takes away the dreary atmosphere of the original. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they wanted to make the level easier to see for players when they're going so fast, but I don't know man, it just looks a little washed out for whatever reason. And then there's the Mach Speed section at the end. There's no thunderstorm or rainbows anymore. It's kinda disappointing because those elements made the level feel so intense, especially in the Chaos X version in Project 06. Also, in the new version, you don't even get to run on the walls or wall jump over giant gaps anymore. Instead, it's replaced with a short, underwhelming quick-step section. It's kind of a shame to see the level have an anticlimactic ending like that. The water also looks a little dull, it doesn't react when you splash in it, and Sonic levels were never known for having realistic water physics, but now that you're actually interacting in the water, it kinda stands out a little bit more. On a minor note, I love this little flip Shadow does when he falls off the waterfall. Little details like these breathe so much life into the animations. They didn't have to do this, but the fact that they went the extra mile shows how dedicated they are into giving this game some personality. Which is saying a lot given the low standards of animation these games have had for quite a while.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
The remix for Kingdom Valley sounds excellent, albeit not much to write home about, in my opinion. It doesn't stray too far from the original. They just added some extra drum beats and percussions to make it feel faster and match the boost gameplay's pace. It seems to have gotten the same treatment as Crisis City Act 2's remix from Generations, where they took elements of all three versions of the original track in 06 and mashed them together. But overall, it's a pretty neat rendition. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the newest thing we haven't seen so far. The Metal Overlord boss fight. Yep, he's back, in all of his metallic glory, but with a twist. That being that the entire fight takes place on water with the surf ability. And for the looks of it, it's on the outskirts of Network Terminal from Sonic Forces. Some people claim it's a sunken egg fleet, but personally I don't see it. The original boss fight didn't have an arena anyway, as it took place in the middle of a cloudy sky, so they likely repurposed this stage from Forces to justify the surfing. Anyway, the direction they decided to take with this one is rather odd. See, you're just surfing around the water chasing Metal Overlord down while dashing into debris and shooting it back at him. After a while, you start dodging barriers and missiles in a 2D section where you then shoot more back at him, you activate a cinematic, and then boom, you blow him up. And well, that's it? Really? Now, don't get me wrong, this still looks pretty fun. I like the idea of surfing around because it's just like the Plessy levels in Super Mario 3D World. Jumping over ramps and ramming into stuff to hit the enemies was actually pretty fun. And I don't doubt that this is going to be a fun boss battle regardless. But for a Metal Overlord boss fight, I was kind of expecting more, like the Bio-Lizard boss fight for example. That's an excellent fight that utilizes all of Shadow's speed and abilities to make quick work of the monster. But here, you're just relegated to surfing, changing the gameplay loop entirely. It's like when you fought the Egg Dragoon with classic Sonic in that lame 2D boss fight. I mean, yeah, technically it's a fight and you're beating the guy, but the way you're doing it is the most lukewarm way that you could have thought of. Now, to be fair, the original Generations wasn't entirely accurate to the source material for its boss fights, but even then, they changed them to adapt them to work with modern Sonic's abilities. I guess I just wanted a traditional boss fight where you're just running on foot and using your abilities as you should be. But, well, for what they did, it doesn't look bad either. I guess they just wanted to experiment, and they also wanted to validate some of these Doom abilities. Now, on the bright side, the spectacle on this fight looks fantastic. Like how we beat down on Metal with our fists, and even use chaos controls to shoot back projectiles at him. So badass. And this is Shadow in his base form, whereas Team Sonic had to go super just to beat him the first time. So I really like how this is also continuing the tradition of Sonic characters growing stronger over the years, where they don't need the emeralds anymore to beat these guys. And hello, what is this? Metal Sonic can talk.
I am the king of all creation. Nobody can defeat me. Not you, not Sonic, not any.
Yup, that's him, shit-talking us just like he did back in Heroes. It's pretty bizarre. I wasn't expecting to actually hear voice acting from these guys. None of the bosses in the original generations talk, so yeah, that's pretty cool. It doesn't sound like it's Ryan Drummond doing the voice this time around. Some people think that it could be Roger, but until they come out and say who did it, I just cannot for the life of me figure out who it is. Still, whoever's doing it, he's doing a solid job.
Let's see how long you last on such unstable terrain.
Same for the guy who's voicing Black Doom. Pretty good impression. Just good voice acting all around this time. So the track that's playing is the same version of What I'm Made Of from Sonic Heroes, which is odd. They didn't seem to remix or change the track at all. I'm guessing they just didn't have the time for the showcase, or they just not going to bother. Vocal tracks are trickier to remix as they'd have to get the singers back to re-record them, and who knows what copyright issues could be involved too. Either way, I just really don't have much to say on the matter, as What I'm Made Of was never one of my favorite vocal tracks from the series. And well, that's all we have so far. Even if it was such a short amount of footage, there was quite a bit to discuss here. I might make another video expanding on my thoughts on the Doom powers and the boost gameplay as a whole, as this new game has given me a lot to think about, as Shadow Generation is taking the next step in evolving the boost gameplay. But in the meantime, I'm gonna work on another brief one where I talk about the Sonic Movie 3 trailer. Well, that's still relevant. And that's a wrap on today's gameplay footage. I hope you all enjoy seeing Shadow in action and all the new features the game has to offer. If you're as excited as I am about what's coming next, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of Shadow's role in the game so far. Now don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss one of my latest videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Keep it speedy, everyone.